Welcome everyone, Costin here with my campaign overview guide for Azhag the Slaughterer in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, a powerful lord for a powerful race. Azhag, faction-wide benefit-wise, he gets 40 diplomatic relations with the Vampire Counts and Archon the Black. His WAs have a chance to contain wyverns, he gets a 20% research rate, and crucially, and most importantly, faction-wide, he gets an income from sacking settlements of plus 25%. So when he sacks a settlement, you can get a ridiculous amount of gold. We're talking here tens of thousands of gold eventually for higher level settlements, for provincial capitals if you sack them. And you do want to sack them because it's one of the main ways you earn money. This is the thing that makes the greenskins so powerful. Many races can struggle in their campaigns because they won't have necessarily the gold to build troops, to get structures, and they have to wait. Greenskins never have to wait. In fact, you may be playing an entire campaign and spending money every turn on building structures, and you'll never run out of money provided you do things in the right order. On top of that, Azhag gets a benefit of minus 25% upkeep for all Orc and Big Guns infantry and cavalry units, and I'm guessing that does include Black Orcs as well, so that is a fairly substantial amount of power. Melee defense, speed, base missile damage for Orc units, hero capacity for shamans, Vanguard deployment for all Orc and Big Guns infantry cavalry units, Lord's Army, some melee benefits, and some casting benefits as well. He also has a Wyvern mount, which does give him flexibility on the battlefield. Lord effect-wise, he gets 2 spells, Spare Leech and Aspect of the Dread Knight, and he also gets Azhag's Wa. He is a powerful lord in melee, and he has some decent casting abilities, though I would not necessarily focus on his casting abilities, not to a huge extent anyway. I would rather focus on getting his melee ability up, and then using the shamans to do casting for him. Now, he does start with the shaman, which actually is a substantial amount of combat power, and he starts with a tier 2 capital, though unfortunately he doesn't start with a tier 2 barracks, because if he did, that would be much better. Now, my advice when it comes to Azhag, you want to get the troll cave and you want to get the barracks to tier 2. The reason is the trolls are really powerful units, and you want to get access to them, and you also want to get your capital to tier 3 as quickly as possible. The reason behind that is you want to get the giant river troll hag in order to get replenishment, and of course you also want to get the stone trolls as units, as a really good siege unit, provided you of course have the DLC from Grom, from the Warden and the Punch. Now you start with 3 Big Guns, a shaman, 2 Orc boys, 1 forest goblin archer, 1 troll, and 1 goblin rock gobbler. Now, my advice would be, for the first few turns, get archers, because you have a pretty solid melee front line. You just need range power, so get archers, and throw everything you have against ogres turn 1. Take them out, and then after that, you will have some choices in your campaign. Now, the campaign decision-making will always be determined by your victory conditions, especially as the greenskins, because you don't want those benefits. Well, at least you want the recruit rank, though you could live without these benefits, but it is recommended that you get them. So what do you need? Well, you need basically Kislev, Ostermark, Ostland, Peak Pass, and Northern World Edge Mountains. But you shouldn't necessarily rush for that as the game begins. In fact, one of the things to understand about this campaign, yes, you take Karakungor, you take the camp over here, and what you should do is take Fort Jakova. The reason you want to take Fort Jakova is because you can then trade it to Katrin and start building a military alliance with her. Now, if you could take Vitevo as well and give it to Katrin, you might even secure that alliance. If not, the capital of the Ostermark certainly will do so if you want it. But how far you want to go west from the start of the campaign will be determined by what Katrin does. Like, if she takes Vitevo, you just stop at Fort Jakova, you then head over for this particular settlement in the Ostermark. Now, the Ostermark, even if you don't do anything against it, is going to be taken over by Draika. But that doesn't mean you should just go for Empire from the very beginning, because you do have opportunities and foes in the mountains. So you have Ungrim that might have to be dealt with, and of course you want to take over this entire province. So I would first take Fort Jakova, then swing around, start building a second army over here under a Goblin Great Shaman. The reason you want to use a Goblin Great Shaman comes down to the fact that he does have the Goblin Tide, which makes Goblin units, in particular Nasty Skulkers, that much more effective to use. But eventually, yeah, you want to take over this entire province, take the Ogres, and one way or another take some part of the Ostermark and trade Fort Jakova and Naganhof to Katrin. That should give you some good diplomatic relations with her, and you can make an alliance with Katrin. Now, as for the vampire counts, the plus 40 to diplomatic relations is just enough to overcome the aversion that vampire counts have against you. So you can make a deal with Vlad, especially if you trade some territory with to him. Like, you could decide, you know what, I'm not going to trade things to Katrin and Ostermark, I'm going to trade it instead to Vlad. You don't necessarily want to give Beckhaven to Vlad. You want Vlad to fight the Empire in the west, while you should put some effort here in the Ostermark in the first few turns, but then you really want to go south and deal with Ungrim. Hopefully before he takes Ground Peak. You don't want to deal with Ungrim if his armies are at full strength and he has managed to secure 2 full provinces. And once you have that, you really should go south. Like, your secondary and tertiary armies should worry about the Ostermark, but you should go south to deal with Skarsnik. Though there is, of course, Draika. You should try and deal with Draika before you go for Skarsnik. And how do you deal with Draika? Well, I'll tell you how you deal with Draika. She brings a full stack of Treekin to the fight. You bring 2 full Wa-led armies. So that's 80 units to beat the crap out of her. She can't survive that. You might even be able to out-resolve that. Or even if you fight them manually on Legendary, she won't be able to survive that. You're the only Legendary Lord, by the way, in this entire area who can and should pick a direct fight with Draika's main army. Generally speaking, when it comes to every campaign in this area, my advice has been consistently avoid that fight with Draika. You, however, are the Greenskins. You're one of the most powerful races in the game. Draika, she's powerful. She'll give you a hard fight. But bring 2 full stacks, declare a Wa, wait for the Was to fill up. I would personally declare a Wa against Karakadrin so that the armies can fill up. Make sure you have 2 full stacks before you declare it. Fill those armies up, then go for Draika, take the Griffinwood, sack it. It's a lot of money to be gained, and at that point you should be able to get to the entirety of the Ostermark one way or another. Well, you or Vlad, or you and Katrin and Vlad, one way or another, and eventually start building up for the military alliances. I would not necessarily bother with Ostland, at least for a decent amount of time in the early game. Instead, I would go for Skarsnik. Now, when I'm saying go for Skarsnik, I don't mean invade his territory and conquer it bit by bit. No. What you should do is you should eventually, with Azhag, get a full army of Nasty Skulkers, Goblin Archers, and the starting units. Try not to lose these guys because you do have this particular upgrade. There is a UI bug here, but you do have the wizardly weapons, so they have a good amount of armor piercing. And you want to take your army, one army, under Azhag, and you want to beat Skarsnik in a fight. That will allow you to force Confederation on him. And you can do the same thing with Warzag, and the same thing with Grimgor. Though you might want to give Skarsnik some time to build up an empire and then just show up and take it over from him. Because Skarsnik, if you're playing as Azhag and you defeat Ungrim, Skarsnik will beat Thorgrim. The problem Thorgrim faces is he has Skarsnik on one side, Warzag on another. He eventually will lose to Skarsnik or to Warzag. And once that happens, what Skarsnik ends up doing is he takes a lot of this territory. He's more powerful than Queek. Like, Warzag tends to lose, but Skarsnik, if you defeat Ungrim for him, will be able to take all of this territory. And then you can hunt him down and put him in his place and get his entire empire. Of course, chasing him down may be a bit of an issue. Absolutely. If you want to cheat, you could use the Toggle Fog of War to figure out where the hell his army is, if you want to do so. Or you could just send heroes to chase down his army, or one hero to just be on his ass, figure out where he is, take him out, and confederate him. Once that's done, you'll have a massive empire. How big depends on how much territory Skarsenik has taken. Then you can go after Warzak and eventually go after Emmerich and capture, get Grimgor as well. Victory conditions-wise, long campaign victory conditions-wise, basically the smaller greenskin factions need to be eliminated. That's not a big deal. But you don't need to capture any particular territory. You only need to capture or have through allies these particular provinces, which isn't going to be that much of an issue. Osland can survive for a decent amount of time, but they do tend to be wiped out as well. If you're going to be dealing with Festus, though, my personal advice is bring at least 2 full armies, because he is a fairly formidable foe. Your main army should be going after Skarsenik, Warzak, and then Grimgor. Now, those are hard fights to pick, and certainly with Grimgor, if you're going to fight Grimgor, chances are he's going to have a full stack, he's going to have higher level units, he's going to have a Wa with him. But you just need to win that fight one way or another and eliminate Grimgor. Like, win the fight, eliminate Grimgor in that battle, and you'll be able to confederate him. And this is the beauty about Azhag. He's in a prime position to get Skarsenik, Warzak, and Grimgor. And he's in a better position to achieve this than any other of these legendary lords. Like, yeah, Grimgor could do it technically, but he's gonna have some problems. Like, the benefit for Azhag is that he can eliminate one of the main foes that Skarsenik has to deal with, so he can keep Skarsenik alive and then let Skarsenik take a lot of territory. Like, you could actually spend quite a few turns conquering the Darklands and then showing up to beat the crap out of Skarsenik once he's captured a substantial amount of territory. Try and not make diplomatic deals. You don't want to hurt your reliability rating if you're playing as Azhag, because that will just piss off Vlad, Katrin, the Empire. And while you eventually may want to deal with them, I would not necessarily recommend rushing it. Now, another benefit with Azhag's campaign is the climate that's unpleasant or uninhabitable for him are like Temperate Island, Chaotic Wasteland, Ocean, Magical Forest. So he can actually sell quite a bit of climate, especially the climate that's next to him. So you can take the entirety of the Empire, the entirety of the Darklands, the entirety of the Badlands, all the way to Khemri. All of it is available to him. Like, this entire thing can be your empire. And that's how you should view it if you're playing as Azhag. Like, you can take even all of Cathay as well. You have a lot of opportunities to expand, and because you're getting so much money from sacking settlements, and you have those opportunities to force Confederation on Skarsenik, Grimgor, Warzak, not necessarily the easiest fight with Grimgor, I gotta admit, but because you have those Confederation opportunities, you can just show up when Grimgor has already conquered half the Mountains of Morn. Just show up, let's say Grimgor is around here, you show up with your army, you beat the crap out of Grimgor in a fight, you gained his entire empire, as well as Grimgor himself. This campaign can be ridiculous in a lot of ways. Like, by turn 50 in one campaign I played on this on Legendary, I had an empire that spanned the entirety of the Badlands, Darklands, and the Mountains of Morn. By turn 50. I was incredibly rich. I had numerous and very powerful armies playing as Azhag. And I think he's got a lot of potential. Like, just the sheer amount of money he can earn through sacking settlements is absolutely ridiculous. I think he has the highest potential, with the exception of Grom the Punch, to get the best greenskin economy in the game. Like, Grimgor is powerful, Skarsenik has his own economic benefits, but that 25% income from sacking settlements is pretty significant. Anyway, that's all there is to say about it. Costin here, signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.